Hello everyone, and welcome to another game I played on PTCGO. For this match I'm going to be trying a reworked older deck, so Genesect Virizion. I've taken out attackers like Raichu and Beartic in favor of something a little bit different, which you'll see play out in this match. I'm going to be starting off with a mulligan, and then off my second draw I do get a Tropius and a Genesect. I play that Tropius for return. It allows you to draw up to 6 cards, or until you have 6, which is a good Pokemon to start off with if you don't have Virizion. And my opponent reveals a Charizard EX. So it's the Stoke Charizard. I'm not sure why he's playing that one exactly, but the strategy will hopefully become clear over time. He's going to attach a Fire Energy. And just a word of note, if you notice cuts in the times in the video, it's because I did cut out a few bits where my opponent wasn't really doing anything. So my opponent here is going to end me. He did put down a Veerbank City Gym, so I am expecting the laser, but fortunately with Virizion that strategy is of limited use. My opponent did get a second Charizard EX, another of the Stoke variety, so this tells me that it's a deliberate choice to put this Charizard EX and not just that he may not have the other Charizard to play with. So here I'm going to play this Team Plasma Ball, bring out another Genesect just to get it on the bench and just thin out my deck by that one card. I will also here play an Ultra Ball, getting rid of the Dedenne and a VS Seeker. I do play Dedenne just for the Evil Tom matchups, and I get a Virizion with that. I will then play an N. I was hoping to draw a Grass Energy, but unfortunately I whiff. So it looks like there's really nothing I can do this turn, but just pass. But I will attach a Muscle Band onto my Genesect, then a Plasma Energy onto Virizion, and then finally bench a second Virizion and just end my turn. Really hope my opponent can't pull off an attack this turn. He attaches a DCE, which tells me he probably won't be able to, unless he has some way of discarding Fire Energy and plays Blacksmith. So we do see an Ultra Ball getting rid of a Fire Energy here, so it's a little bit scary. But actually we see Mega Charizard EX, and it actually looks like that's Mega Charizard Y coming into play. So it has a fairly powerful attack, does 300 damage, but it will do 50 to itself and require a massive 5 energies to pull off. So my opponent had to end his turn due to Mega Evolution, and here I'm just going to attach a Grass Energy onto my Tropius in the active and use a Dowsing Machine. So that's my ace spec here. I should have really not played that one and play a G Booster. So I'm going to play an N here, and it looks like I won't really get anything all that useful. I will bench that Tropius and just return, and this is going to get me an additional card, and unfortunately it's not a very useful card. It's another Starling Megaphone. So now my opponent will play a VS Seeker of his own and brings back an N. So I'm happy to see that. Maybe he'll end me into something more useful. But he could also just pull off an attack. I do see his discard pile. He just has a singular fire energy in there. But he will play a Druddigon with the Rough Skin ability on his bench, and play a Catcher. He fortunately gets a Tails on that. He's probably going to go for Genesect or Virizion and one-shot it, because I doubt he wants to waste a turn attacking a Tropius to knock it out and do 50 damage to himself. And now he actually retreats into Druddigon, and he's going to end me. So Druddigon I don't think can attack yet, and attack requires 3 energy. So that's fine by me. I will attach a Grass Energy onto my bench Virizion, and then play an N. And here I get a Muscle Band. I can play that onto my active Tropius, or I can just retreat into Virizion and play it on that, which is what I'm going to do. So I can start using Emerald Slash to get more energy onto the field. And unfortunately it took me way too long to get Virizion up and running. So draw 2 from the deck and put them down on my Genesect with a Muscle Band, and then hope that my opponent won't have a way of capturing that up. I'm going to play a Starling Megaphone here, removing my Muscle Bands from play, and then he plays a Blacksmith. So this is probably going to go for Charizard, or Mega Charizard Y, and it looks like that's exactly what he does, and then he attaches a DCE onto it. So the question is whether he'll manually retreat, or he has a switch, which he reveals that he does, and now he can use his attack and hit me for a massive 600 and the knockout, but he does do 50 damage to himself. Now my opponent has taken 2 prizes, and I'm just going to send up Trophius. That's really the only thing I can afford to sacrifice now, since I can't really take the knockout. So I attach a Grass Energy onto it and then play a Chorus. I get another Genesect and another Virizion, debating whether or not I should play either one of those. But actually I think I want an Ultra Ball here for something maybe a little bit more useful, getting rid of that Genesect, and I actually am going to go for Dedenne. The reason being is that it only gives up 1 prize, and since Mega Charizard Y requires so many energy to attack, its attack is kind of useful since it does 20 times the number of energy attached to your opponent's active, and right now it has 5, so that's quite a bit of damage. Now my opponent is going to play a second catcher, which is really unfortunate, but this time he gets a Heads, which is even worse. So he's probably going to go for Genesect since it's the only thing that has energy. He's going to do that, and I'm going to lose a second Pokemon here. But he does put down a Robo Substitute first, and then plays an Ultra Ball, getting rid of a Laser, it looks like, or maybe 2 in the process. And it looks like he goes for a Reshiram. So a single prize attacker, not bad there. And then he Junipers his hand away. A Fire Energy goes on to the benched Charizard EX, and now I'm just waiting to see what my opponent will do. And it looks like he does the same thing he did last turn, another Crimson Dive, and knocks out my active EX, taking 2 more prizes, but doing 50 damage to himself in the process. I'm going to send up Dedenne, attach a Grass Energy onto it, and I will bench a Virizion EX here. I'm going to really have to rely on Dedenne from now on, unfortunately. And I will play Energy Short, and it does 120 thanks to my opponent having 5 energies attached to it. So that's a massive way to take out a huge threat with just a 1 energy attacking basic Pokemon with only 70 HP. So my opponent does a wise thing and sends up his Robo Sub, but I don't know what he plans on attacking with ultimately after that gets knocked out. He did play a Computer Search there and then put down a DCE onto Charizard EX and plays a Genesect. So I don't know what he used the Computer Search for, but the Genesect does shuffle 2 item cards from my hand and gets him to draw 2. So not the best draw support there if that's what he went for. And it's not really effective at disrupting me at this point. I do have a Plasma Energy, which I'm going to use on Genesect, so I can use Red Signal to bring out the Charizard EX. I will also play here a Chorus for 8. And I'm fortunate enough to draw a Headringer, so I'll attach it to Charizard EX, just making it that much harder for it to attack. And I'm also going to attach this Muscle Band onto Dedenne to increase its attack. So here, attaching the Headringer, and I get to hit for 80 damage, so not too bad. If he attaches more energy onto Charizard EX, I will be able to knock it out next turn. So my opponent senses this sort of dilemma, and he's going to Lysander up my Virizion and then play a Hypnotoxic Laser. So unfortunately I don't have any Grass Energy on Virizion, so he will be able to poison it and put it to sleep. But I do have Energy Retrieval, which I can use to bring back 2 grass energies and just heal off Virizion by attaching 1. My opponent really needs to get off an attack here to steal the win right here, but it looks like the only attack he can pull off is Stoke, and that's unfortunately not going to be enough for him. But it will allow him to get energized here. So that means if I can't take this Charizard out, I will lose this next going into his next turn. And I'm going to do just what I described, so I will play that energy retrieval, bringing back 2 grass energies. I will play one of them on Virizion. This allows me to manually retreat my Virizion, and then I can go back into Dedenne and use energy short, this time for 120 and the knockout. So now we're even on the prize exchange, but my opponent really doesn't have anything to attack with ready. He's going to send up Reshiram, which I can't really hit for much, but also he can't really hit me for much since it doesn't even have the DCE necessary to do Outrage. And it looks like my opponent is just going to decide to concede the match here. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and the MVP on my side is Dedenne. So how often do you see that against a non-Evil Tall deck?